Hey, everybody. Here I am again, Tony T.C. Coleman, with my Drummer Knows Best podcast, which you got to like, subscribe, and share so we can make it grow and get bigger and bigger. Today, I got my brother, a good, badass drummer. He knows all about the cult of personality. Y'all, make some noise for him. Will Calhoun from Living Color.
Hey, Tony T.C. Coleman, drummer nose.
That's what I'm talking about. Subscribe, like, and share on all platforms. So here we are with In Color, with Living Color, the man in the drum stands. My brother Will Calhoun. Hey Will, how you doing, man?
Fantastic, Tony. How are you?
Good, man. It's always great to see you, man.
You too, man. And thanks for coming to see us when we came through town.
Are
Appreciate
you
that.
kidding me, man? I'm like a fan, man. I'm like hollering and screaming. Yeah! All the guys, man. Y'all are so tight, man. And
Thank you.
I was a little nervous about my singer there, getting climbing up there. When he climbed up there on the side field up there, I was like, all right, now I can't catch you, man.
And you and me both.
But your setup, man, your drums sound great, man. Your
Thank you.
kid.
Thank you,
I
man.
noticed. I don't think I asked you about that cymbal, that one cymbal you had. It had a design in it, but
Yeah.
it sounded interesting. What kind of cymbal was that?
Basically, what I've been doing is working with the great Bobby. He used to play drums at Weather Report, percussionist, Bobby Thomas
Uh,
Jr. And
mm,
between him and there's an Argentinian guy who actually does the cutting. What I've been experimenting with is just me, Tony, just with the art and imaging.
right.
I've been taking a couple of symbols, some of them more on an Afrocentric basis, and these spiritual
Yeah.
symbols, and coming up with ideas to put them into the symbol to reflect a certain kind of energy, but also to look a little bit stylish. And then when the lights hit it, you get a certain kind of a vibe. So I'm experimenting with it still, but and I'm getting the sounds to sound similar to a Chinese or Swiss cymbal sound, that kind of vibe.
Right.
Doing it with the jazz thing and with Living Color, but I'm enjoying it. It's a fun part of sonic and visual creativity.
Well, looks always matter too, man. It looked cool as hell. So I was like, I was gonna wait till your drum tech turned around so I could steal it, but he was watching me watching it. And your setup, man, your drum sounded great, man. Look like you have the same configuration, but didn't at one point you had double kick drums?
I use two kick drums, and I use the a 20 on this gig, a 22 and a 20-inch. The 20-inch
Right.
tuned really high. It has more of an indigenous sound, which drives some
Yeah,
rock.
instead of the same, I mean double meaning the same size, you have one that's not a big one and a small one, so to speak.
Correct, correct. Yeah, the big one is for the rock and roll sound. The small one is for more the ambient jazz kind of West African tone. So when I get to more of my solos and other pieces, I could add another flavor and not change my drum kit up or not have to use samples for those sounds. So,
Yeah,
Tony, it came out a lot of research, as you know, traveling the last 25, 30 years,
right.
Western North Africa, and studying rhythms in Brazil, Maracatu in the northern part of Brazil, and Recife, and being in
Yeah, man.
being in Senegal and being in Gambia and these places, and studying with drum masters, taking those rhythms back to the kit, and getting them, being able to play them, but also to sonically distribute the concept. And the way that I had to do that was to add this other bass drum with that tone, and
Right.
I can combine, I can build a bridge between patterns that are 10,000 years old and patterns that are 200 years old that we play here in the States.
Yeah, I the only place I've been in Africa is Morocco. But have
Mm.
you've been to South Africa?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to go so bad, man. That's on my bucket list.
Okay. Let me
You
know when you
know,
got some numbers for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in 98 countries, as you well know, with BB, but man, I want to go to South Africa so bad, man.
Great.
You know, so many things about our culture and drumming over there. I could just I was around a bunch of Moroccan drummers, but I felt right at home. Same thing in New Orleans, man.
Mhm.
When I hear drums, it does something to me, man. My soul embraces it. It's a trip. It's like I'm familiar with it without knowing I'm familiar.
Oh, it's in your DNA. And it's an
Yeah,
interesting combination you make between Morocco and New Orleans because a lot of the Moroccan drums are built on this on the Ganawa music. You know, they're kind of strapped on and they're played with these two sticks, one on each side. And if you look
yeah,
what's happening in New Orleans for the marching and the funeral situation, right? And the Mardi Gras,
right.
it's a newer version of that, basically. So it's just a cousin of what was happening in Morocco.
That's so good that we know that, have that knowledge, and you have it down. Excuse me. On my podcast, by the way, once again, thanks for being on Drummer Knows Best, Tony Coleman Unlimited podcast. But on my podcast, I'm not all professional. If your phone ring, you pick it up. Hey man, hold on, man. I'm on the podcast, man. My phone. I'm not like, hey man, if you want to eat some grapes, man, yeah, man, whatever, man.
Okay, okay. Next time we do it, I'll get the barbecue grill out.
Let's do that too. We can put it up in the grill. Then I got to come over there. I got to get a flight. No, man. Thanks for being on my podcast here because I know there's a lot of things that drummers don't know about drumming that I get guys like you who can really explain like the details of where these drums from our African culture, originate out of and all of that because it's important that we know that stuff, man.
Yes.
It didn't start from just some guy beating on some pots and pans, down south or something, even though that's where I started.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere.
How did you start out with yours?
I started out, I didn't want to play drums when I was younger
No?
because I had a lot of competition. Steve Jordan lived around the corner from me. I live up here in the Northeast Bronx, and Steve was a prodigy. My older brother was a prodigy. They're all from the same generation. There was a drummer
Yeah.
up in Pumpkin, Errol Bedwood, and Pumpkin is the drummer that, in my opinion, was the main force behind how hip hop began and how records were being created and how he was selling beats to labels even in the late 70s. However,
Wow.
however Pumpkin was a killer drum set player. You know, he could play any kind of Rachmaninoff or Beethoven, any classical piano, and he played amazing bass. And for me, being really young around Pumpkin, he was a programmer. Like I wasn't around musicians that were programming machines in their basement. You know, and and
Wow.
and Pumpkin was this cat that was really ahead of the game. So um, our house was the neighborhood kind of SIR. We lived in a two-family house. My mom opened up the basement apartment to the neighborhood, so guys brought over their PA systems and their bass, drum gear, percussion gear. My brother was in quite a few bands. And for me, I was able to just walk downstairs and hear him with an organ trio, gospel group, jazz trio, funk band, rock band, alternative band, and it was a great kind of almost like a library, a live library area. So I didn't want
Right.
to play because my brother was always called Calhoun and I was called Little Calhoun, and I looked like my brother, so you know, there was this kind of thing when you're growing up. Like I admired him and I wanted to be like my brother in many ways. He was cool. He played drums. You know, he had all these cool cats coming by, and I admired that. But I was intimidated on it. I got into
Really?
school, and of course, growing up in the city, everybody plays basketball and football and baseball. But I got hooked on motocross.
Hmm.
There were no black kids in the 50-mile radius that were thinking about motocross.
Right.
I got hooked on it because one of my friends had a bike and he knew how to build bikes. And I would go, he was a guitar player. And I would go to his garage. He would play me Return to Forever and Miles and Slide and all of this while he was working on these bikes. And I got hooked on the music and on what he was doing. So first I learned about spark plugs, transmissions, racing, speed clutches, and all of these things. And he brought
Right.
me to help him. And then I got a bike and I started riding and racing, and I got hooked on it until my parents came to see my first race, and they
So
said,
were you
"Oh,
so were
really?
you on dirt bikes?
Off road only, 2 and 4 stroke off road, not on the street. It's dirt bikes." And
Okay, I was into dirt bikes.
oh, great,
Growing up in Kissimmee, Florida, down there where I grew up, I had a mini bike. That was the first thing, a mini bike.
yeah,
And then I got a Sears 106. Seemed seemed
nice.
like it seemed like Sears had everything, didn't it, man? It seemed like they had motorcycles, cars, guitars, drums,
Drum
everything.
sets, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I got a Yamaha 250 dirt bike,
nice,
enduro.
yeah,
Then I got a 360 and put that baffle the hooker header muffler thing on it.
nice, nice.
And then I went to Kawasaki. No, then got a 350 Harley Davidson street type bike, and
Okay.
then got a Kawasaki 750.
Oh, look out, look out, look
Yeah,
out.
and then got lots of tickets.
Yeah, yeah. No, I stayed off road. Kissimmee, Florida,
Okay, yeah,
not at all like New York City. In New York City, there's no respect, too many potholes, cabs,
right.
who don't care. So I stayed off road, and I had my first professional race when I was 16, 15.
Wow, man.
My parents came and they were like, my mother said, "I hope you really enjoyed that race because that's the last one you're gonna do in this living."
So
So I took
so the
the bike,
drums, so
man, and I took the bike and cashed it in and put the money on the drum kit. That's how it started.
so so your brother and Steve Jordan and everybody around your area playing drums, that kind of intimidated you, huh?
I wasn't afraid to do it. They were so on such a high level, like they were doing professional gigs. Steve got into the NBC orchestra when he was 17.
Right.
I mean, these cats were they were like imagine your neighbors are on records. You know, you're
Yeah.
driving in
Oh
the car with
yeah.
your parents and you hear a song that your friend is on the song. He's playing keyboard or bass or drums. So that was what it was like up here in the Bronx. I won't say intimidated, but I already felt like I was 15,
Right.
13, 14, 15, and I hadn't started really playing yet, and they were already on records. And I had a long way to go. So it didn't, there wasn't an impetus there for me to want to get behind. I played for fun, and I have a lot of Latin friends that I sat in with,
Right.
and at Orchard Beach on congas, timbales, and so on, salsa,
Yeah.
but I never thought about it. And at about age 16, 17, something bit me pretty hard, the music bug. And I jumped into the deep part of the pool and started to study with the great Horace Arnold. And
Oh, okay.
that was the beginning of me. Now I always, Tony, went to concerts. I always
Right, right.
I fortunately grew up in a super literate music community. Between
Mm.
my friends and my friends' parents. I had Tito Puente Big Band, Cachao, Max,
Cool.
Izzy.
Cool.
You know, I went around. My friends who were from the Caribbean, their parents said, "You got to listen to this record." My Latin friends' parents said, "You got to listen to Cachao. You got to listen to Tito Live, 1958. You know, or whatever, Carnegie Hall concert. You have to listen to all of these things." And then in my house, my father was uh, a bit of a jazz purist, and so we had a lot of Bird and Train and Mingus and that kind of stuff. And then my uncles, my younger uncles and cousins were in Vietnam, and they were that generation was really into Sly, you know, the How plays and some of the other things. So it was a great mashup without thinking about it. There was a lot of music in the house and a lot of music around the family. And I had my hands on a lot of things. So I was listening a lot and I was intrigued by
Right.
music. And they would take me to see Dexter Gordon and they would take me to see
Yeah.
Jackson 5 also. It was all of these, you know, it was a range, Earth, Wind and Fire, and then there was Broadway plays. When the Wiz first hit, the first Wiz, there were all
Mm.
things happening. So culturally for me, it was a beautiful experience to grow up in this environment, which led to me wanting to get behind a kid.
Yeah.
And once I did, and I started to play and study, by the time I was kind of on the scene, hip hop was starting. You know, Basquiat had already blown up. The Lower East Side in Manhattan, we had the punk and alternative rock things going on, and then you can just there 10, 15 different clubs you can go in, and the cultures were really starting to sort of homogenize their energy in a way where um, my love for music and for drumming became very wide.
Okay, cool. That's a lot, boy. But that's one thing I always loved about coming to New York. Even like the time I came and we hung out and you took me to this African restaurant, man. I can still remember that. But anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was the food was amazing, and the lady working there was blind. Yeah, yeah. I know. You know, I was kind of hoping she wasn't there because I'm like, Tony's not gonna be able to focus on the menu. But don't
Well,
feel bad, Tony. She does that to everybody.
she kept being extra friendly and anyway, but oh,
Senegalese.
drummer knows best.
That's the Senegalese culture, man. But I figured for those that are watching, I was trying to give Tony the best experience as possible
and,
because
and
that was my
it
goal.
was and you achieved it. It was nice. So hip hop when hip hop started out what with the electronic drums, did they ever have acoustic drums doing it together?
Great question. Hip hop started out with bands. The
Oh, really?
DJs were nowhere to be found. They weren't even credible. DJs spun between acts. That's what the
Yeah.
that's where the MC thing comes from. MCing was just something somebody would do in between the acts. And
So
all
the drums, so the drumming, the drummers, you're right there, and they're doing spitting off the lyrical stuff, but it was no programming, no
No,
loop.
no, 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 Tony. It was bands. And if you look up Pumpkin and you look at his history, you'll see even on YouTube, Pumpkin was playing those records that he was doing with Treacherous 3 and that programming came after. Most rappers,
Oh,
even the original Raheem was a great singer. He could sing like Marvin Gaye or
yeah.
great singers out there. But it started out with bands, horn sections, keyboard
Wow.
player, two guitar players, drums, and percussion. Full
See, I
band.
didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that.
And it was in the park, and cats went out there, and it was the combination. The culture started to combine because Kool Herc, who gets a lot of credit for doing the big speaker parties, Kool Herc's Jamaican, and in the Caribbean culture, the block parties were the huge speakers playing, reggae and dub and
Right.
calypso and stuff. So the two cultures between the Caribbean kind of street party festivals started to collaborate with the live bands that played in the park, and they started to kind of borrow from each other. The concept of the programming happened two ways. One of the ways was just club owners didn't want to hire bands anymore when that stuff got popular, and
Imagine that.
they can pay less people. If it's just a rapper and a DJ, I'm only paying two people and not 12.
Yeah.
Then I don't need as much work and so much stress. So there was also an academic side to how it shrunk down. But yes, it started out with full bands, arrangements, horns. Sugar Hill Records was a full band. Doug Wimbish, as you know, the bass player.
Yeah.
Doug was the house bass player for Sugar Hill. Sugar Hill had a rhythm section that was cutting those records
I
for
didn't know Doug was doing that gig.
Doug was the house bass player for Sugar Hill
Wow.
Records.
So he's on hip hop, dippity
All of
dub.
that, all of that stuff. But that stuff was cut by a rhythm section. The great Keith LeBlanc, the late great Keith LeBlanc on drums, Skip McDonald on guitar, Doug Wimbish on bass,
Mm,
and then the horns came in and other stuff were added later. Certain musicians would come on later, but it started out with bands as it was like an extension of Motown and other black kind of
right.
able to extend, where they hired great musicians to play behind these rappers, and then it fell into the DJ thing in a scratching bit, and then that became a phenomenon. But not leaving out the politics, also what was happening in this late '70s, early '80s, in that Reagan generation, the Ronald Reagan generation, was a lot of our programs got canceled. So when my generation,
Right.
you had instruments. You had guitars and basses. Everybody played an instrument. Everybody went home with a trombone or a saxophone or
Yeah.
and when those programs were cut, there were no musical programs in the public
Right. Yeah, exactly.
school systems. So brilliantly as we are, this turntable scratching, which Theodore from the Bronx, I gotta shout him out, um, started to create this concept. And the cats used to tape a quarter on top of the of the needle, and they were scratched with one turntable, and you put the weight on because when you scratch, you didn't want the needle to go into another section of the record. And with the weight on the needle, it would stay in the same area. You could just scratch one vinyl. Then the brilliant art of two turntables came, and then the two turntables came, and then you had a mixer. So now you had all these other kind of options, and it exploded. Yeah, it exploded from that point on. And then my other Bronx colleague DXT went on with Herbie Hancock and his
Yeah,
famous song. He's a Bronx guy too. So
right on.
this was the transition. And it was really super qualified musicians, by the way. As in Motown, as we know, those are all brilliant musicians playing on those records. Many of them jazz musicians and classical composers that couldn't get work in other aspects of the industry. Wrote those amazing Tears of a Clown and those amazing arrangements
Yeah.
of these songs. Hip hop was the same way, and that's how it started. And I think the combination of politics and the quickest way to make money with the least amount of impact homogenized the art form into the bands kind of not being on stage, and then the DJ and the rapping thing came in. And then I think one of the huge superstar rock groups that came out of that culture was Run DMC. So when they hit, it was
Right.
a pow.
Well, it's funny how that, like, all that you just explained with all the black talent and stuff doing that, but then a group of white guys come in and do it and get extremely big. That's kind of like the history of that's the story of our life. It's
It
like
happened in jazz, it happened in blues, it happened in rock
blues,
and roll, it happened in country and western. People don't like to talk about that, what you're talking about, but that's just a fact.
it's what it is. I mean, get over it.
Cultural appropriation, and everything
You
we
know,
do is appropriated.
because it's I look at it like my analogies to explain it is like if you were on a farm and you had the loudest crow and rooster contest, and everybody bring their rooster, and he's like, and now here comes the guy with a duck. You go, hey man, what's up with the duck, man? This is for roosters. And then the guy go, check my duck out. He goes, oh, wow, amazing. Hey, screw those chickens. Let's use this duck to do that. That's like, you get my point.
Yeah, I mean, the industry is has always had this. The industry is a reflection of life. There's a racial dynamic in our country. There's a racial dynamic in our politics, and there's a racial
Yeah.
dynamic in our art. So, um, uh, I just like for us to respect it and invest in it more, and not give it all away so much
That's the key word, respect.
as a culture. But people are always going to come and see what's happening because of the value of. If you want to get really political, let's just go back thousands of years.
But politics is it
And the value was in the continent of Africa. All the
life.
value was there. Everybody went there to steal and take from it to help build up the other countries. It's the
Yeah.
same concept. If you look at it in that aspect, it happened on the continent and it's still happening. And it happened with everything post the continental expression. So all the gold, all the copper, all the tin, all the oil, all the coltan, all these amazing things. And conceptually, Africans were doing open heart surgery. Egyptians were
Of
doing.
course.
They changed the
But
direction of
but when
rivers.
you say political, like everything in life is political. Everything is
Yeah,
politics.
yeah.
But music is no different. Entertainment business, it's all political stuff. Like I remember when you guys first came out, Living Color, it was like it was one other group doing rock stuff, Mother's Finest.
Yeah, I love them.
And of course, I mean Sly and Jimmy, I mean
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that's a
Isley
given,
Brothers.
but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but after I think Mother's Finest was the last black group doing rock stuff. Then Living Color came out, and y'all was like a little bit more like a little more edgier, a little more raw, a little more power, in my opinion. Like, I mean, and you guys had to damn near fight to even be acknowledged as a black rock group. And I remember situations, uh, you had something called a Black Rock Coalition where you had to say, "Hey, damn it, we black, but we rock too. Come on, what the hell?" I mean, all that kind of stuff is a bunch of bullshit. But it's like, man, when does it ever stop? But how is it going for you guys now as Living Color being like the only? I don't really know any other groups that's been out here like you guys have on that level since Sly and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I want to say a couple of things about that. And there were bands that were great that didn't get credit. And the Bad Brains is one of my favorite. And the Bad Brains was a hardcore band, and they really set that hardcore scene up. And they were not only black, they were Caribbean descent, and they were hardcore, and they were from DC, so they had the go-go piece, and they were Rastas. So there was all of that in there. Anybody listening to this should go get the record Eye Against Eye.
Okay.
Brains. Get that record Eye Against Eye, which to me still holds the championship for most unique hardcore record ever released, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Um,
Sure.
but there was Death out of Detroit, right? They were all brothers, and there's a documentary out about them, and they didn't get almost any play at all, at zero. They're still out there doing it, and Death was out there doing what they were doing. And there were other like I'm mentioning those two bands because those are the most prominent, and people can do research on those two bands. For us, you're asking us, how is it? Is we have a responsibility. I fortunately had been blessed to meet Jimi Hendrix's father, to have a lot of
Yeah,
conversations
I
with
met him.
have a lot of conversations with Buddy Miles,
Yeah.
conversations with Tina Turner, conversations with Little Richard about this music and about the politics of this music. And you're asking us how we're doing now to answer your question. So we have a responsibility. We're standing on the shoulders of a lot of great black men and women who suffered to play this music. Some killed to play this music.
Of
So,
course.
so our role is to represent the ancestries and to move the music forward. If it gets recognized, Tony, that's great. If it doesn't, it's not our fault. You know,
Right.
we have an important responsibility there. So what we're doing is we're sticking to our program, and we want to continue to make great music. We want to continue to be influenced by by this, and we want to continue to respect our ancestors and the people who came before us that made it possible for Living Color to exist. That's the main thing. I can't speak on how somebody judges me and what I do, or why aren't we doing this, or why isn't this a number one? When to me, when I'm sanctioned by the great ones, nothing else matters. If Harry
Yeah,
Belafonte
man.
and the Stones
You-
and Aerosmith, I mean, our first show in Boston, there was roughly 20 people in the audience, and 8 of those people were Aerosmith. So
Wow.
Aerosmith and the Rolling Stones were two large bands that got behind Living Color and supported us to this day. So sometimes people see what we're doing and they recognize it, and sometimes it's a pat on the shoulder, sometimes it's in assistance of pushing the record. Mick Jagger produced 2 songs on the first album of Vivid. He's playing harmonica on one as well. And he saw the band at CBGB's and thought, oh my God, what can I do to help these gentlemen? And he did. So the most important thing, as you know, Tony, getting out here is doing the art, is
Yeah.
who we are and representing who we are. And then whatever happens after that, we don't have any control over it, but we do have control over what we do, what we create, and how we create it. And after that, you're kind of letting it out, and
Right.
it's going to be what it's going to be. I can't say why this isn't happening. Why I'm surprised the band got 2 Grammys back to back. I'm not afraid to say that because we were up against Guns N' Roses and other bands that I felt the media was feeling more than they were feeling us. So that was a shock. Matter of fact, we didn't go to the first Grammy invitation because we didn't think we were going to win. We went out on the road. We were in Italy in a setting up for sound check in this Italian disco, and we got the phone call that we won. And Jagger accepted the award for us over the phone. But that was kind of where we were at that time, with it. But I'm not so sold on what people think about it or whether it's credible for someone or not. I know it's credible. I know who sanctioned the music that we do, and I know who's,
Right.
and that's the most important thing. I'm not speaking for the whole band, speaking for myself. The Black Rock
Uh,
Coalition, to get back to that for 1 second,
yeah.
Vernon Reed, Condom Mason, I think Greg Tate, maybe, and a few other people. But the coalition, I was still in college at that time. When I returned from school, I became a member because I was just going to meetings and I thought it was interesting that this organization existed. I don't like the name Black Rock Coalition because we invented it. And I don't think the term the Black Rock term can get misunderstood. We're not separate from White Rock. My comment when I got interviewed for Rolling Stone was, if you're not going to call Van Halen and other bands White Rock, don't
White
call
rock. Yeah.
it a
It's
rock
rock.
and roll band. It's rock.
It's rock. Now
And
see, now see,
that's the thing that I
yeah.
clashed with. I understand why they did it, and I supported them 100%. However, how to use the language is really important, because if you keep saying that term Black Rock, you're going to start to get pigeonholed off to another island.
You're isolating us
Yeah,
that way.
it's Living Colors a rock band. Period. That's how
Yeah,
I see it.
right. Now the thing about it, like I work with Ike Turner, who is the father of rock and roll. Period. Okay.
Mhm.
Ike Turner.
Mm.
Not Ike Turner is not famous for assaulting Tina
Yeah.
and all of that domestic violence stuff, which
Mhm.
he was they what they say hurt 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 people. I recorded with Ike Turner his record when he got out of jail for drug use. Wow, a musician that actually had drug problems. Anyway, uh, I worked with Ike on his record when he got out of prison, and I spent 2.5 weeks with him at his house. He was so talented. But Ike told me his whole story, everything about he and Tina. I know what Ike Turner told me, and he showed me things.
Mm.
But Ike Turner was BB King told Ike. Ike said, "Hey man, how can I get a record?" He said, "Go to Sun Records and meet Sam Phillips and tell him I sent you." And he went. He did that, and he had a singer with him named Jackie Benson. I'm messing up the last name, but on piano, Ike was the first person. He told me Pine Top Perkins taught he and his friend how to play piano when they were little kids sitting on Pine Top Perkins' knees.
Wow.
And Pine Top was teaching Ike and his friend how to play. You know, Ike couldn't do so Ike went go 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 like that.
Wow.
That was the first time when I went and recorded that record, Rocket 88. He wrote a song about his car, Rocket 88. He was
Great
the first person to record with that going gong 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 not
job.
he couldn't do it. He said he went gong gong, and that's when Jerry Lee Lewis started doing it, and Little Richard started doing it after that. And the piano player with Chuck Berry, whose name's I can't remember right now. He started doing it. So Ike Turner is the first person that was playing rock and roll music. And that's the history that people always want to dismiss Ike just simply of his illnesses from being abused as a child and all the nonsensical stuff that happened with he and Tina. And he did tell me, man, it's embarrassing. I hate to talk about it, man. Me and Tina used to fight. He said, and Tina was strong. He grabbed my forearms. He said, man, you ever see, and he never called her Tina. He called her Annie Mae. You ever
Annie
see
Mae.
Annie Mae's arms, man? Annie Mae got her arms big as yours, man. Sometimes she would take me, blam, and kick my ass, man. And he said, I was growing up in Clarksdale, Mississippi. That's all I knew. Families, all my neighbors, they fight with their wives, physically fight. But seeing people come to their house, take the mother from the house and say, I need to take Miss Brown with me. I'll bring her back. All this kind of stuff. So people don't talk about all the things that made Ike Turner what he is to became an abuser, but he felt bad about it, and he talked to me about that. But Ike Turner invented rock and roll. And BB King's first hit record was produced by, well, was the song was produced by Ike Turner. Now here
Uh-huh.
it is, 3 o'clock in the morning. That was Ike Turner. That was BB's first hit record. But that's where rock and roll came from.
Mm.
I'm telling you. So stop saying that Little Richard invented it and Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis. No, rock and roll is black music.
Yep.
Now, if you whatever, it came from somebody brown skin,
Yep.
and that's what it still is today. But of course, I think because we don't appreciate our culture as African Americans or whatever we are, I don't know. We are called so many different things, but
I'll start with human beings, but
thank you.
um, I am not going to forget the time I saw you guys in Oakland, and you graciously arranged for me to meet one of my musical heroes, which is BB King, and I patiently waited outside the bus. And when you called me to go in there to sit in the back of BB's bus with you and him, he had, I remember he had the remote control in his hand because he said, young man, I don't even know all the records that I'm playing on. And somebody had just given him a hard drive. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're correct.
Somebody had given him a hard drive of all of his recordings, and he was rifling through the covers with the remote control while we were sitting in the back of that bus. And to hear him say that and to watch him do that was extremely powerful. Talked about playing in Oakland, having family there, and looking out in the audience and seeing a sea of white people. Where are our people? You can't blame them for coming to the gig. You know,
No,
where, where are
no.
where are we? And you know, it's BB King, man. He could have said, "How you doing, young man? You know, how'd you enjoy the show?" And he didn't say that. He wanted me to know that he looked out there, and that disturbed him.
And it always disturbed him. I'm gonna tell a quick story to you that I think people have heard me tell this story before about playing with BB. When I first got in the band, I mean, I'm like 22, 23-year-old young man, you know. I'm I'm really I'm really ambitious and I'm really, just, sure of myself and just want to have fun. But anyway, every month BB would go down in June. Every June, BB would play 2 weeks in Mississippi at all those little raggedy joints out in the middle of the Delta for free, so people could see him because they couldn't afford to pay the tickets. So he said that 2 weeks out of the year, I'm doing the Medgar Evers homecoming, the civil rights
Ah,
leader Medgar Evers
ah,
and Mr. Evers' brother Charles Evers. So they would go down there and play at these little barns, turn into a club, and it was raggedy, leaning, about to fall apart. And I was joking about it. Man, look at this raggedy ass place, man. My young ass just making fun of it, laugh, being Mr. Comedian Tony. And the band's laughing and they go, man, look, I saw a big ass bug. Is it alive? I mean, what was that? It looked like grass growing through the stage. And we're having a good laugh. And then the tour manager, Bebop, said, all right, let's hit the stage. And as I was leaving, BB was sitting on the bus. We had one bus. And BB said, Tony Coleman, have a seat. I want to talk to you for a minute. Yes, sir. I hear you making fun of the place, and you think it's funny out here to be out here? I said, yeah, I think it's funny. He said, well, you've been around the world with me. You played for presidents, kings, queens, Carnegie Hall. We played for those. Don't you think these people deserve to have us play for them? Now, if you don't want to be here, we'll figure it out. You can sit on the bus. And you don't like blues, black blues music. You are black. It's our music. You don't like it? Well, when you're making fun of these people, this is where I come from. You're making fun of me, son, and it really hurts me. It really hurts, and I wish you wouldn't do it, son. And he said, you know, it reminds me of when I was growing up in Mississippi. Couldn't look the white man in the face. Had to walk off the sidewalk. If it's raining, whatever, you can't do, when I played for people down in Mississippi, they booed me. The white people booed me. Then when I got in front of the black people up north at Harlem at the Apollo, that they booed me. It made me feel like I was black twice.
Mm.
And he said, so you think about that, and you know, if you don't, you are black. If you don't like the blues, let me know. We'll figure it out. I never that every time I tell that story, I still feel that feeling, man. But I never forgot that. So, you know, we have to be proud of our culture, man. And that's when I decided then that I'm gonna be the baddest blues drumming, shuffling drummer in blues,
Yeah.
period. And I still feel that way today.
Yeah.
And thank you. And BB and my dad, King Coleman, who was the MC at the Apollo Theater, were good friends, and Bobby Bland. But that's a whole nother uh, conversation for later. But so yeah,
Well, you make a great point. Part of our respect and knowledge comes from having the information, and it's not readily available to everyone. You know, those BBs. I like talking to Tina about not. Of course, I'm a huge Tina Turner fan, but I didn't want to talk
mhm.
about how great her records are. That's why I was at the show. I wanted to know respectfully about the art and what I can do to further the mission. Mavis Staples, Little Richard, Buddy Miles,
Yeah,
Al Hendricks, Mr. Hendricks, Jimi Hendrix's father. The people that I did run into where I did want to, and with jazz cats, it's the same. When I talk, you talk about drummers. I talk to Max Roach and Art Blakey and Elvin Jones.
yep, I did too.
Jack
Yep.
DeJohnette. I spoke to Jack DeJohnette yesterday. You know, you always want
How's
to.
he doing, man?
He's good. He's good. He's starting a podcast, which he's probably going to call. I think he wants to do like a go. You sit down, you know, like two chairs in a room, kind of a vibe. He talked to me about it. And of course, I love Jack. I definitely want to get on his
And he's a great pianist.
great pianist, man. He that's his first instrument, and he's been doing some solo piano shows the end of last year and this year. He hasn't actually done too many shows on drum set, but you know, Jack. I remember I was talking to Jack. I was reminding him when I first got my place, he came to visit me for 3 days, and we sat down and basically, you may as well have given us two boxing gloves, two sets of gloves, because it started out kind of friendly, and then it just got into this kind of, healthy challenge. And then it was interesting how he talked so much about Roy Haynes. And I couldn't figure out until he started to break down to me how much of Roy Haynes' playing was in Jack. He was breaking all of these things down to me, like, no, no, the ride, Will, and the thing, and the thing, and the tempo, and you gotta. And then I started to go, wait a minute. And it like that conversation opened. I always loved Roy too, but I didn't get the Jack Roy connection so much. And that's Jack's like drum god, Roy Haynes.
Wow.
And I didn't hear that listening to him playing with Miles and doing his other things. But when he broke it down, so I'm saying that to say the knowledge helps you to respect it. When I go to the continent and I study, one of the most amazing things are watching the young people, the young soon to be masters on balafon, kora, djembe, talking drum. The difference between those children and our children are a couple of things. They speak five, six, seven, eight, nine languages. Number
Of
one.
course.
Number two, the culture is like oxygen. You don't learn the instrument when you go to school or pick up a guitar. It's the same as learning how to respect your parents, how to respect your grandparents, how to cook a meal, how to eat a meal. All of those, the art and the instruments and music it's so woven into the culture. It's almost not a side piece at all, which is why they're masters at their instruments, in my opinion. Just as I'm speaking as an outsider when I went to villages to study. I'm not talking about being in a fly hotel. I'm talking about going to a village and
Right.
staying in the village, and even when I was with Tuareg musicians in near Timbuktu. Tuaregs, you don't stay with the family. It's a cultural thing with them. They build your tent
Mhm.
for you, and you stay in your tent. It's just a culture.
That's
That's
cool.
what that culture. I slept on the ground. I had whatever, and they made a bed for me out of carpets, whatever out in the desert. It was fantastic. But in those environments, you get to understand the depth of what it is, and we don't have that here. It's different here, and quote
That's
unquote.
sad. That's really sad, man. It's really
That's
sad
talk
that
about what DB tells you, and you talk about these kind of things. I'm making that point to make that's the difference. When I went to study, and I always still go to study in West Africa, It's another way the information is broken down to me. It's broken down to me the same way it's broken down to you when you sit down and talk to your grandmother. She tells you about your parents.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
Uh,
That's the level of the information being passed down to you if you want it. And I strongly feel like if we were more connected to that, we would have a different relationship with BB's music, a different relationship with the blues overall, country music, jazz, and rock and roll and everything else. But we are too many of us are disconnected from it. Not all of us.
well. For one thing, like I said, when I was growing up, when I was a young man growing up, I used to hear the blues all the time in the community. There's a man lived across the street behind a house where I grew up at. His name was Mr. Ted. He had a peg leg, and he used to sell bootleg liquor. And I would see the police cars going over there getting whiskey from him, all kinds of stuff. But anyway, every Friday morning, he's kicking off playing blues. He had his little record player. He would put the speaker in the windows of his house, and he played blues all day and night Friday, all day and night Saturday.
That's
And
beautiful.
and and as a little kid, we'd be like, "Ah, I hate that blues." And then so basically when I heard everybody doing blues, I was like, oh man, I don't want to do blues, man. I want to do some funk, man. I want to be with Shaka Khan and Rufus, man. I want to be with Pete Funk, man. I want to be with Earth Wind, man. I want to be jung, 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 jung. Man, I don't want to hear that, man. I want to play anything but blues. And then when I finally got with Bobby Blue Bland and BB and those guys and realized like when BB told me what he told me, when Mr. King said that, it woke me up. Wow. Yeah, this is our culture and I need to carry it on. And I literally took it serious when he asked me. I saw him the week before he died. I went to his house and he talked to me and he said, don't let him forget me, son. I said, I want, he said, I know you want Tony Cole, man. And that's why I try to keep him alive. And people say to me, oh, nobody will never forget BB. They already forgetting him. And not only him, but Etta James, Albert King, everybody that did the blues and the ones before them. So it's my responsibility to make sure and keep it rich and keep people to understand. No, you're not doing that with the proper feel. Well, you don't have to do that. No, you have to do it like that. That's like trying to make a meal with out the proper ingredients, a Chinese meal or a Mexican meal or Italian meal. If you don't have certain ingredients, you say, well, I don't need to do that. Yes, you do need to do that. And that's why I'm here to teach drumming, blues drumming with the soul and the groove that we have in us. And I'm just not, people don't like it, but I don't give a rat's ass. I don't care. I'm going to tell you whether you like TC or not. I'm going to tell you, this is not the way you should be doing that. You could
That's
do.
important. Tony, that's important. We had a club in Harlem that we all used to go to, and um, it was a club to see all of the cats play and all of the cats coming up, but it was a dangerous sit in because the old school cats are always on stage and the young cats were getting there. We were getting our information, and they were brutal about
Yeah.
setting songs up, listening to the singer, eight
Oh,
bars out, 4 bars out. Why you making so much? The solo just started. Why you telling the story? You telling me the end of the story on your solo. I want to hear the beginning of the story. And if you wanted to get yourself slashed, you went on stage with those kind of cats, and
yeah.
and you walked off there knowing. When I was a teenager, I would go in that club and watch and learn and listen. That's the difference. That's the difference. That's what made Tiger Woods great. That's what made the Williams sisters great. Is somebody there. Those dads were there to say, "This is how you do this." And that is also not in our culture. And when I'm on a continent, there's no conversation about that. When an elder speaks to you about how something is laid down, it's the law, and you get along with it. So the industry has allowed, and technology has allowed for things to be cavalier. A very cavalier attitude towards how things are done. With Living Color, we want to keep the high musical content, consciousness, musicianship. We That's one of the things that we strive to do because that we feel like that's an important part of the expression of the art.
It
Being
is.
you can be Corey being one of the best and having lyrics that talk about what the things that are going on in our lives like now. I love that Cult of Personality is 35 plus years old and people still love the song. The sad part is it's still relevant. That's the sad
Right.
part. But
That
yeah,
that's the sad part.
but
And
but but, but you know that level is what a lot is missing, and I think as brilliant as technology is, and you know I'm a geek for electronics and samples and
I know, yeah.
but it also opened up the door for a lot of mediocrity. That's
Well, you know, once again, all cultures that I like you were saying earlier about they made a tent area for you, what have you. You weren't staying at the W Hotel in the Four Seasons.
exactly
So when we travel all the time, BB used to joke about me on stage after before he say good night. He said, well, he introduced the band. First of all, he would introduce the band before we even start playing. He's gonna introduce everybody in the band so you can know who's up here playing. He
that's
was a,
right.
he was about that. First of all, let's hear it for blah 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 blah. And then at the end of the night, he would say, "Thanks for coming to see me, and I wish you have us back again. Can we come back again?" And then he'd say, "Yeah." And sometime he would say, "My drummer will be doing a show later tonight. Where are you playing, son?" Because I had a reputation of always asking the promoters in all those foreign countries. I asked the promoters, they say, "Man, how you go to find a blues gig everywhere we go?" I said, "Think about it, man. We're out here, all these people listening to BB King, they blues lovers. There are all these people." So I asked the promoter, "So is there a blues club in town?" He goes, "Yes, sure." I said,
Yep.
can you take me? You want to go? You want to go?" I said, "Yeah, I want to go." So I would go to all the blues clubs and meet people and make friends with people. And of course, when they get on the mic, Tony Coleman, BB King. And then
Yeah.
I'd go sit in and I'd meet people. And because of the blues, I've been able to do that. But I never like to stay at the hotel and not go. I would always say, "Can you take me into town where a restaurant is, where a regular restaurant, a community restaurant? Because I don't want to pay $60 for a burger here in the hotel. I want to go eat the real culture, the food in this country, you know." So that's important that the arts, we bring different communities and different people and humanity, different human beings together through our music. And it's important that we know the history and the culture of everything out there. When I played in a country band, I went around Nashville to figure out how the hell to play with these country folks. I wasn't like, "Oh, that's a bunch of bullshit." I wanted to go around them and watch and listen. They see, and I'd be like the only black guy in there, and they'd be like, "You like country music?" I go, "Yeah, I'm a drummer." First thing I do, they go, BB King's drummer, use the celebrity status thing, and they get excited. They go, "You want to come up and play?" And I go, "Yeah." They go,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Thrill
Yeah.
is gone." I go, "No, man, no, no, no. I don't want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
don't play me. So I want to learn how to play country." When I hooked up with a reggae band, I had to learn how to play reggae with all the reggae brothers because they told me, "You know, drummy, you good, but you reggae suck bad, man."
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a respect you have to have on the instrument. I love all of the styles and I love to mix them, but you can't play with one drop or a dub band playing funk. No,
Right.
it doesn't, it's just not kind of respectful in that way. So it's important to get that information and learn it. And Africa taught me that. When I was in Morocco playing with the Ganawa, their six is not like our six, the 3/4. They have those Ganawa bass lines. Ba 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 bam, ba ba bam, ba ba ba. Now we thinking ba 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 chum chum cha dun 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 dun
Yeah. Right.
dun dun dun. That's the Western version of blues. Desert blues is da 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 da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Da 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 da
Yeah,
da.
yeah.
Ba ba bam. Da 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 da. Da da da. And I was up there playing with some old Ganawa one night, sitting in, and got embarrassed, and 10,000 people clapped me into where I'm supposed to be. The audience,
Right,
yo,
right.
yo, yo, no, 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 they da, 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 da. And they were letting me know that. And then I went to the market the next day and bought 50 cassettes and went back to my
Yeah,
room. And I said, I'm not gonna, because I was out there for 2 weeks, I'm not gonna embarrass myself again. The next time they hear me
right.
play this music, I'm gonna be playing it right.
That's
And that's
right.
the part about learning it. And then after that, I got invited back to the festival, and I got invited to start to play with some of the masters after a while. But that's the idea.
And then when whatever form of music you're playing, when somebody who's been doing that all of their life look at you and go, you got it. That's when you got it.
Correct.
Until that happens, you don't got it.
That's so correct. That's
So I'll read. I like reading all the people that look at my Drumeo video and uh and they'll make comments and I read all the comments. I ain't got nothing else to do. So I read
right.
all
Right, right, right,
and they'll
right.
say, man, that guy, that's his snare sounds great. Man, he's that shuffle. It's great. I go, that's cool. But I like the ones that be like, that guy sucks, man. That's the boringest drumming in the world. He sucks. And then and they go, I always tell this one that I read where the guy said, Fred Belo, who is one of the old blues drummers, said, you got a double kick drum on your bass drum. Fred Belo didn't have a double kick drum on his bass drum. And I said, well, I got a cell phone too. He didn't have one of those. So what's your point? And what and so hey man, we're in the modern days. You can still put yourself in it, but you still have to know the main ingredients.
And that's how the art moves forward. It doesn't move
Yes.
forward by you playing just like Beto. It doesn't move
Mhm.
forward. If I put on dinner socks and a polished pair of black shoes and a suit and sit down there and play exactly what Art Blakey played, that's not moving the music forward. And Art required
No,
me to do it
no.
anyway. And I can say that because I talked to Art Blakey about that to his face. Yes, you respect the music and you know what it is, but it has to expand. They expanded the music for us beyond belief. I mean, Miles Davis is one of the most greatest inspirations because he had so many different kind of bands,
Exactly.
and was all amazing, and it all had a different vocabulary within the language of jazz, if you want to
And
call it
just
that.
and just like BB, Miles Davis, Art, all of those guys that talk to us, all of them, Jack DeJohnette, everybody, they are aware of everything going on around them. Don't think they're just locked in one mode. They don't have blinders now. They know what's going on. They're listening and watching, so they know. BB stayed on his laptop. That's why BB loved you guys. We used to play when we had one bus, somebody would play a CD, and we play you guys. BB knew who you guys were. He knew who
Mm,
you were. He was aware. He'd say and first of all, BB never thought he was good. He never thought he was good.
wow.
He never thought he was good. He thought I'm okay. Seriously, he was intimidated by everybody. He was like, I wish I could play like that. That
Mm.
young black man on that guitar, talking about Vernon, that's crazy. The only person I see do something like that was Jimi Hendrix. But Jimmy turned it the other way, you know. He had it this way, but that boy there was just like that. BB was new. You guys work with him,
Yeah,
didn't
Vernon produced those tracks. That's how I got on that BB King recording. Vernon called me to get on the record,
you?
and Vernon called me one day and said, "Yo, man, I'm producing BB King." I was like, "Whoa, you want to play on a session?" I was like, "Of course."
We opened the shows. We shared the stage. I guess you say open for Metallica one time and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. BB opened for Pavarotti. You know the blues is everywhere. Every kind of genre you can imagine.
Right.
I was checking in the hotel one time, and I know who all the rock guys are, and the open bar. I saw these spike haired guys sitting at the bar, and they saw us coming in with all our BB King jackets and caps and shirts on. BB King, you know. And they walk up and they go, are you guys with BB King? No, man, we just like BB King shit. and it was it was Judas Priest, and
Oh
and and uh,
wow. Okay.
and they said, "It's Mr. King. He's coming in. His bus is pulling in. He's coming off his bus." They meet BB, and we're and I know who they are, and the other guys have no clue. They're like, "Who is Tony talking to today? He talking to some spiked-haired white guys." And I'm like, "That's Judas Priest." You got it. I know. So anyway, the guy said, "Mr. King, would you like to come see us? We're going to be playing tonight." And he said, "I'm sure my drummer's gonna go. Let me know, Cole, man. I'd like to go see him." But I didn't take him serious. So I went to see Judas Priest. Dude came out on the stage with a Harley Davidson and had a microphone on the muffler. It was so loud, man. Next day I had on a Judas Priest t-shirt, and BB said, "Did you go see those Judas people?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, why didn't you call me, son?" I said I wanted to go. I was like, "You sure? Didn't I say it?" You know, you get on my nerves, Cole, man. But BB like to check out everything and everybody and learn different stuff. And just I never heard him criticize anybody.
No, it was an honor to be on that recording, which made it onto the box set and to work with BB. The blues is everywhere. It's a very important music. It's very wide music, and the Ganawa music of Morocco is based on the blues, and a lot of the Tuareg music as well too, which I studied both. So um, one of the things when I get over to Mali, when I'm with the older guys, nobody talks
Right.
about who I played with in Grammys or Rolling.
Right.
They always say that guy played on the BB King record. The older guys, just so you know, the older Malian cats that they don't all of that live in color and this and that. They don't. So where's this guy from? He's from the States. You know, well, no, he played on the BB King record, and that everything opens up for me after that. Just so you
Hey,
know.
we
So
were in the airport.
you got to get over there because they know who you are, and the
Yeah.
musicians know who you are, and that was a beautiful experience. So BB definitely continues to shine his light on us. And
Yeah, absolutely. And he literally, like, when I be telling cats, "Hey man, like I tell you, man, I love you, Will. I love you, man. I mean, I love you guys. I love musicians, whether they're no matter how high or how low. I respect and love anybody want to do this for a living, because if you really are a true musician, you didn't do it because you could get the girls, because you could get high, because you get or none of that stuff. You did it because it's in your soul, and you can't not do it.
right.
Everybody, I've heard interviews where guys say, "Yeah, first time I saw the Beatles or whoever, and I saw the girl screaming, I said, I want to do that." I didn't give a damn about none of that. I just want to play drums.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, the research is important. Having the information is important. I studied with just drummers that play for weddings, which were frightening drummers in Mali. These guys were frightening what they were playing. I said, "Who are these cats?" They said, "Oh, they only play for weddings." Those cats only play for weddings? Like, are you kidding me? So the first 2 weeks, I followed them around, and they did sometimes 2 or 3 weddings a day. They were frightening drummers, Tony. But all of that information is important. I like to mix up, put into my playing. So when you're hearing me play, and thanks again for coming out and supporting us, man, supporting me. You know me a
Yeah,
long
man.
time. You see me on clinics. We were on the same companies and all of that. But
Yeah.
my idea always is to
Yeah.
expand.
When I went to Brazil, I had to give you a call because everybody was asking about you and Vera.
Yes, 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 yeah, yes.
Had met my clinic, and Dennis, you and Dennis. You know, I was damn near doing my drum clinic by you and Dennis.
Well, she called me to say, I'm nervous about Tony wants to come. I mean, we really want him here. I'm like, Tony, is he gonna love Tony? Tony's great. She has a beautiful school and she's a great player. I met her at NAM many years ago. I never heard of her. I was at NAM
Really nice school, and they
and
are on top of
beautiful
everything.
school, man. She's not joking. She's got the videotapes, the practice rooms. So whenever I go there, I try to support her. Even it's like
Yes, indeed.
you don't even got to pay me. Order me some food. I'll come in here and I'll do something. And because of her commitment, and she's getting a lot of young ladies.
A
I've
lot
been
of young
I've been to
ladies.
her competitions, and there's a lot of young girls over there now that are killers playing drums, which I think is a
And she's a killer.
well, she's like a Sheila E over there. I know she always has been killer. She showed me videos of her, which she was 14, 15, playing on TV.
Right.
Yeah, no.
And
I'm
and
glad. I'm glad you
and
did that. That because she's
I am too, man. And thanks for the
love
support
Vera.
you guys give me
I
because
love Vera.
because a lot of times, I see people thinking, oh man, cha 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 cha. That ain't nothing. Man, when I do a clinic and I try to show blues shuffles and grooves and stuff, they are looking at me, Will, like,
It's not
wow.
easy to do, and there's nobody really explaining that flavor in music. People want to do a shuffle. They want to think about Purdy, and we
You're
love
right. Of course.
the first. I'm not gonna front, Tony. The first time I saw a drummer play a Texas shuffle, and I realized it was different than the shuffle the other guy played before him.
Yeah.
Watching them play, and we got it was older cat at a fair. I was at a fair on a day off,
Yeah.
barbecue, hanging out, da da da, and this house band was playing, and I was like, "What?" I walked past the stage. This groove is this is something sounds different. I watched the cat the whole set, and when he got off stage, I introduced myself to him. He was from Louisiana. He was talking. I said, "That you were playing the." He started laughing. He's like, "Yeah, yeah, you recognize that, huh?" I said, "Texas shuffle. That's not a
Yeah.
that's not a regular shuffle." I said, "We."
Right.
And then he was showing me how that thing works. So there isn't a lot of information about that. Certainly in South America. So I'm sure you were a hit down there.
I was, man. I was quite surprised, man. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Let me let it out, man. I think
No,
I'm
man,
great
she's beautiful, and Brazil is off the chain. I mean, it's just gorgeous on so many levels. It's politically madness sometimes and unstable, but um, the drummers and the drumming culture in Brazil is almost like no other place in the world.
the way it feels that in places like that. I'm sure it feels like that in Africa. But when you go out in the atmosphere, not the cities, but just where the calm spots are, you can feel that feeling. It's a
Yes,
spiritual vibe about it. You know what I'm talking about?
yes, I do. Absolutely, man. And it's a beautiful one, man. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you went. But she called me. She was a little bit like, I don't know. And I said, no, y'all are gonna love Tony when he gets there.
Thanks, man.
You're gonna love
Yeah.
Tony. But that's my sister,
Thank
man.
you.
I love Vera to bits, and we've helped each other on so many things.
Yeah.
And I taught at her school. I'm really proud of her. And whenever I
Yeah.
can to help her with the school.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
and one time somebody booked a clinic for me, and the flight wasn't official. And yeah, man, it was a promoter because I was on there with color and the guy didn't do it right. And she had to use her mileage points to because I couldn't get there in time.
Right.
He had to book the flight. So I told her, you know what? And I know that the points cost more than you purchasing the ticket. I
Right.
told her, nah, I want to come do something at the school, do a fundraiser to help her with that because she was so helpful to me getting over there. But I couldn't drive it in enough time and I couldn't fly. And the ticket, something happened with the tickets. The guy booked it online and I got to the gate and they were like, no, it's not, and I had to call her and say, I don't know. And she said, no, your clinic is sold out. We really got to work on
Mm.
what can we do? And I wanted to reschedule it and she couldn't. So she put her own bread down, man, to
Yeah,
make
she is great. She is absolutely great. She's got a passion for drumming that we talk about. Are you guys going out? You touring,
We
living close?
are we are working on a new record. We're writing. We're doing these writing sessions 1 week at a time. We're up in Connecticut in a sleepover kind of a spot, and we're there and we're writing and we're trying to get it done before the end of the year, and it's going great, Tony. So we're not doing so much. I'm going to be on the road with jazz saxophonist Joe Lovano this year,
Hmm.
and I'm going to be doing a duo tour with David Sanchez, who the brilliant keyboard player and guitarist, man. So
That's
uh,
cool. So how are you guys just instrumental? You're not doing any singing or anything?
it's
Do you sing?
I do sing, and it's really amazing in the shower. I
Well,
get a
I can
stand,
say
I get a standing ovation in the shower. But
Well, I can tell you this. If Yoko Ono can sing, any damn body can sing. So you don't worry about it. I hey man, art is art. I get it. Art is art. But god dang, Yoko, come on,
uh,
baby. Really?
I don't know, man. I don't know. No. Just like some of the avant-garde jazz cats say, there's guys who really play avant-garde jazz, and there's guys that are faking it. They just can't play. I'm not gonna go
Yeah.
there. But uh
I think Philip Bailey with Earth, Wind and Fire is gonna let Yoko fill in for him on a couple of gigs.
let me know. That's the gig. I'll be at the bar.
But so the
Yeah,
two of
man.
you guys, so
But yeah,
the
we're
two,
anxious. We're anxious to just duo the drums, face the keyboards. There's maybe one
yeah,
vocal. It's all instrumental. I'll send you the link if you want to post anything, man. I appreciate
for
it.
sure, I do, man. I'm
Hey,
and this drummer knows best podcast. You know, we're not just sitting there talking about flibba diddle daddle diddle doodle diddle diddle. We talk about everything like we're discussing a conversation with drummers and others that don't play drums. But I appreciate you being on here, man.
thank you, Tony. Thank
And you got to do it again. And I got to get Corey and Doug and Vernon on my
you, dude.
podcast.
I'll let them know.